Let's get to Congressman Rob Wittman, who is on the phone line with us. Congressman Wittman, thanks for joining us. Congressman Rob Wittman, Republican, 1st District in Virginia. That's kind of the northern neck area up through kind of the central part of Virginia. They're trying to gerrymander him out with that ridiculous thing they got going on there. Also, Rob Wittman, if he gets reelected and the Republicans take the House, Rob Wittman is going to be, I predict, he can't say it, there's an election, but he's going to be Armed Services Chairman, which is one of the most powerful positions in the nation, especially now under President Trump. Congressman Wittman, thanks for joining us. We're live in Iowa on our bus tour day 4. We're in West Des Moines. With us, Chris Saxman, who you know. Also, we've got we've got.
That's right. That's right.
We served together in the House.
You know Saxman, right? Because he served.
I do know Chris well. Yeah, saw him up here in D.C. A couple of weeks ago. So
last week.
That's right.
Last top week. 435 in Congress.
You're also with State Representative Steve Holt, State Representative from Iowa, Steve Holt, also State Representative from Iowa, and candidate for Governor Eddie Andrews. So you got a full house, plus all of our listeners. So thank you.
Thank you. Great to be with you, John. Thanks again for the opportunity.
Always. Let's get to DHS funding. Where are we?
DHS funding, it looks like there'll be a vote today in the Senate. It's likely to fail. If it fails, they're going to go and, I believe, pursue a vote to do a short-term continuing resolution for DHS. It looks like that will probably fail, but again, we'll wait and see what the vote is in the Senate. And if that does fail, then we are facing a shutdown for DHS. Now, there are some interim funding measures in place. So we put in the reconciliation bill funding for DHS. So Homeland Security will continue to be funded. There are some temporary funding mechanisms, too. There's about $7 billion available for FEMA. There's funding available for the Coast Guard to make sure they continue to pay Coast Guardsmen. So there's some interim things that can go on that help those agencies continue, but only on a short-term basis. So it doesn't look like there's any agreement, at least here in the next several days. I suspect that these votes will probably come up and go on a straight party line vote, and then from there they'll have to determine what happens, because the funding then for Homeland Security will cease. Now, as I said, there's some money that's already out there as interim funding that will let them continue operations, and of course TSA is considered critical, so those individuals will still come to work. The problem is they won't be getting a paycheck, which is not a good thing.
So Rob, my question is, we're back. Sorry, we just lost internet there for a second here in the Trump bus. Are you in favor of getting rid of this phony 60-vote filibuster nonsense? That's a loaded question.
Listen, I think that they ought to go back to what the filibuster used to be, the talking filibuster. I mean, if senators want to get up there and state their case, then let them do that and let them continue to go on. To me, that's the way the system should work. It shouldn't be held hostage to the current situation, which is not a design for government to be able to function. So I think that they should go back to the talking filibuster.
Are they going to do that? Is Thune going to do that?
Well, listen, the Senate can vote to put in place their own rules whenever they want. So they could just say, hey, for this vote, we're going to go back to the talking filibuster. So yes, the Senate has, in their own full control, the ability to set the rules for how they conduct business. So yes, they can do pretty much both bodies, House and Senate, set their own rules. And the Constitution is pretty clear that they get to do that. So yes, the Senate can set whatever rules they like as far as how votes transpire and how bills are considered and passed or voted down.
Congressman Wittman, why did you have 6 Republicans in your conference abandon President Trump's tariffs on Canada?
I don't know, John. I'm sure they all have their own different reasons behind that. If you look at the power in the Constitution about tariffs, the legislative branch does have power in that realm. What the legislative branch, though, has done is to say, "Hey, listen, we're going to allow the executive branch to play a large role in tariffs." And the reason behind that is, tariffs are usually pretty complex. They take a lot of considerations about all the different things, and to now turn that into a deliberation with 535 members of a legislative body makes things incredibly difficult. In fact, I would argue it's not the best way to go about it. The challenge is where is the balance in the power held by the legislative branch and power held by the executive branch? I would argue that the executive branch, regardless of who is in the White House, has a better position to do the day in and day out negotiations on these tariffs, which are always related to agreements, trade agreements, economic agreements. So I would argue that is indeed the case. If Congress wants to weigh in, it can still do that. It can still do that. It can still go in and say, hey, these are the things that we want to see in the trade agreement. But I think it is a challenge to say, oh, the executive branch has no role in that because of the complexity of what happens today with these trade agreements, and obviously, tariffs are always going to be a part of that. So, as I said, I can't speak about the other 6 members and why they voted in favor of this resolution on the tariffs with Canada, but I can give you my perspective, and that is that this is a situation where there's lots of complexities there. And listen, it's hard enough here in the legislative body to get simple pieces of legislation passed with 535 members, 100 senators, and 435 House of Representatives members. You can imagine what it would be if you then put in that realm of responsibility to negotiating the tariffs and trade agreements.
Let's bring in Representative Steve Holt here from Iowa, a very red district. Iowa, obviously, tariffs are in a lot of people's minds, Steve, here. It's kind of been mixed, the people I talk to. Some are concerned. They're kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. They haven't really seen the effect of it yet, but there's not certainty. You just heard what Rob Wittman said about the tariffs in Canada. What are your constituents in Iowa saying, Steve?
Well, I think there's concern about the tariffs, but I also think people recognize that President Trump is trying to level the playing field. He's trying to, it's just ridiculous that all of our goods can go into countries and they charge these outrageous tariffs, unfair trading practices, and then we're supposed to just sit here and take it. So, I think a lot of citizens are very supportive of what President Trump is trying to do in leveling the playing field. And I'll have to, if I can add this about the filibuster, I don't understand. Does anybody on this panel believe that if the Democrats get control, they're not going to end the filibuster, go to 51 votes, stack the Supreme Court, do all the things that they're on record as saying they want to do to try to put the nails in the coffin of the republic? So I'm kind of have a hard time watching Senate Republicans not, because I believe that's what's going to happen when they get control. So I'm having a hard time understanding why in 2026 is not 1945, it's not 1950. So why they don't recognize that the things have changed and they need to exercise the authority and power that they have and govern this country. There is no reason that DHS should be in danger of losing funding. I think that is very unfortunate.
Rob, you want to respond to that? You want to respond to Steve?
Sure. Listen, Steve, I think you're 100% right as far as leveling the playing field on tariffs. The United States has been taken advantage of too long. It's caused these trade deficits that we see. So absolutely, we ought to be leveling the playing field. And again, you ought to maximize the leverage and capability for our country to do that. That means both the legislative and the executive branch. So I think you're spot on there. As far as the Senate rules, in my mind, are archaic and are problematic as far as getting things done. I think that the American people are looking for the Senate to get things done. Listen, I think it's a pretty clear vision there about what the other side would do. So I want to make sure that we look at how we're going to operate and make sure that we get things done. And the filibuster is a problem. The filibuster keeps things from getting done. And yes, if you listen to what the other side says and the things that they would do, they would change the rules. They would change the current filibuster rules. And no two ways about it. So the question is how do Republican senators make sure the rules operate to where they can get things done? You know, we pass a lot of bills over here in the House, send them over to the Senate, and they just kind of sit there. And one of the holdups is the 60-vote threshold. So the question then becomes, how does the Republican majority there get that body to function and get the things done that need to get done? I think anybody looking at it says the filibuster rules keep the Senate from getting things done, and it's time for a change.
And you know what? The American people don't care about tradition. They're going to look at it and say the Republicans had power, and this is what they did with it. They didn't get a lot of things done. So I think we're going to pay for that.
Eddie, you want to weigh in?
I agree with the Representative Steve Holt, what he just said. I mean, people, they don't understand all the rules. They just want stuff done.
Right.
And all they know is, you guys have control. Why aren't you doing it?
Right.
Yeah. And 100%, if they were in the same shoes right now, we wouldn't even be having this conversation because the rules would have already been changed.
But they're going to get changed in the first hour because, Rob, they tried to change it last time. 2 senators stopped it. Kirsten Sinema, Arizona, Joe Manchin. Both of them are gone. And the people that are coming in after them are like radical whack jobs. So this is going to be an hour and a half, and they're going to change it. You're going to get statehood in D.C., 2 senators. Going to get statehood in Puerto Rico, 2 senators. They're going to stack the Supreme Court to 13. They'll all be left-wing activists. I mean, this is what we're faced. And, you know, you had Graham in there and Thune worrying about tradition or, well, what if we lose power? Well, you are going to lose power if you don't do anything. That's been our whole argument, Steve.
100%.
Right.
Listen, I think it's all about getting things done, and that's 100%. The people are going to look at Republicans and say, did you get things done? Are you doing the things that you said that you were going to do? And we ought to look at the Senate and their rules and say, is that allowing us to get things done? And if not, then I agree that they ought to look at, you know, how do they make sure that they are effective as the majority in the Senate? And I would argue there's a lot of things that should be going through the Senate and getting done that are not. And I think you can point to the rules being the impediment there.
Rob, let's get to the Epstein files. I've done a complete 180 on this. This is not going away. And do you believe that now all the files should get out, all the names except the victims, unredacted? How do you stand on this?
Yeah, listen, I voted in favor of making sure that we release all the information from the Epstein files. You know, the place where you need to be careful is to make sure that if you're talking about people's names that are just involved in questions about whether they're involved or not. In other words, they're not guilty or whatever, but they were looked at to see if there's any culpability there. I think you do have to be careful about releasing those names, because if you're tying somebody to that had nothing there, but was just one of the folks that were being questioned, you know, that can end up harming the folks. But listen, do that, and you can easily redact those names where there's nobody that's directly involved and provide that information. I think that transparency is the best thing, especially, too, with, you know, all the accusations and conspiracies that are flying around out there. I think the easiest thing to do to address that is to say, hey, listen, with the proper redactions, not redacting whole documents, but redacting individuals that are not involved in any of this, you know, atrocious behavior. Make sure you're at least providing protections for the innocent.
Steve?
Yeah, I agree with the congressman. You know, what's the old saying? Sunlight's the best disinfectant. I think it needs to be released with the concerns that were just mentioned by the congressman, obviously. But yeah, I think they need to be released.
Rob, I want to get to redistricting in Virginia. I saw this map. Saxman and I were looking at this
map.
It's
called gerrymandering.
What? Have you ever seen a map like that in your life?
Yeah, it's called gerrymandering. It's disgusting. No matter what state does it, they shouldn't do it. Iowa does it great here. Y'all have great congressional districts. We went through the process in Virginia. We had a supermajority of Virginians say, the people said, we're not going to let politicians choose their own constituents. We did it the right way, and it produced very fair maps.
And it got 70% in the ballot.
Supermajority.
Right.
In
70%.
Virginia on the ballot. and they're doing it temporarily. They're going to change the Constitution temporarily because of what Texas is doing. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't be. No state should be doing this. Every state should have a nonpartisan, independent redistricting commission every 10 years. They shouldn't do mid-decade redistricting. You should fight the fight on the issues that we're talking about and let the people speak and listen to the will of the people.
So my theory is they really did this to get rid of Wittman. That's been my theory from day one, because he's going to be Armed Services Committee chairman, and they can't beat him.
And he's a great congressman.
He's phenomenal.
He's a great congressman.
So obviously we love you, Rob. But
well, thank you, John. Thank you, Chris.
No, he's one of the
Plus,
nicest,
we love your wife too.
Literally, John, one of the nicest guys, not in Congress, you'll
he's
ever
great.
meet in your life.
Yeah.
He's like
Plus-
ridiculously nice.
Plus, if you ever sit down and have a conversation with him
He's
about
always smiling.
armed services, ships, submarines,
He's
the
knowledgeable.
guy
He's
is
good.
he's got a PhD.
Yeah, no.
You can actually call him Dr. Whitman. He's got a
I
PhD.
call him Rob.
He's a smart guy.
That's it. Just Rob. Yes.
I know, right? I like to call him Dr. Whitman once in a while, just to
Ooh,
like
Doc Whitman.
shake things up. Doc Whitman. So, Dr. Whitman, let me ask you this. So,
Yes.
you've seen these maps. They're unbelievable. They're just they stretch from Northern Virginia to like the Eastern Shore. I mean, they got nothing to do. One's got nothing to do with the other. It's insane. Saxman is more optimistic than me that you can beat these in the referendum in April. I don't think you're going to defeat it. They're going to spend, what, $50 million? I mean, there's just no way.
I've heard 80.
$80 million they're going to spend.
80.
Because it could be,
In 2 months.
making the Jeffrey speaker saying, let's spend 80 million to R like 3. So the only shot you got is for the Supreme Court to uphold the lower court decision, which I think they are 7-0. But a lot of people not optimistic. Give us
For your
your
listeners,
take.
John, this is Supreme Court of Virginia.
Supreme Court of Virginia.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah. Listen,
What's your take?
I think that if you read the ruling by Judge Hurley in the Circuit Court, incredibly well reasoned ruling, and we prevailed on 3 of the 4 statutory and constitutional points. I think that it would be hard for the Supreme Court to overturn that. They may not agree with all the points, but I think that at the very least, the one about not having an intervening election is one that clearly they didn't follow the Constitution there. So I think our chances are good with the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is now formally put it on the docket, so it received a case number the other day. So our hope is that they'll rule on that before early voting would start in Virginia. And as you know, they're already up online and on network TV, saying, "Oh, this is just temporary," and this is fulfilling the will of the people. And I'm thinking that's pretty misleading, because the will of the people, 66% said we don't want this, and as Chris said, I mean it's ridiculous. So they want to go from 6 Democrats, 5 Republicans to 10 Democrats, 1 Republican. So 92% Democrat representation in Congress. That's not Virginia. You're going to disenfranchise all those folks that are out there that have a different viewpoint, whether they're independents or Republicans, and it just doesn't make sense. And then of the 11 congressional districts, John, 5 of them will now be directly connected in the largest portions of the population will be in Northern Virginia. So what you'll have 5 representatives from Northern Virginia, and just like the 8th district, which is where my home is in this new map, that district goes from Arlington to Yorktown. And if you look at just the elements of the Constitution to say it has to be compact and there has to be communities of interest, there is no way that you can look at this map and say that even on those principles that it's constitutional or that it's fair. I mean, you look, people in Richmond, people in the Shenandoah Valley are all going to look at it and go, hey, they're going to forget about us. These are folks that are going to come from Northern Virginia, and they'll be looking out after Northern Virginia and not for the other areas in Virginia that are critically important. So it just has all kinds of ramifications. The bottom line is a pretty simple message. Gerrymandering is bad for Virginia. It hurts Virginia, and it'll hurt Virginia significantly if they are able to pull this off. I don't think it's going to happen. I think there are a number of places where it can be stopped, but you can't take anything for granted ever. This has to be an all-hands-on-deck moment for Republicans in Virginia, because this is about the very ability for our voices to be heard in the legislative process. And if this happens, believe me, believe me, there won't be a single consideration given to a single Republican voice in Virginia, or for that matter, even of folks that consider themselves independent but want, a thoughtful, reasonable, and balanced government. This is about, a partisan power grab, and to say, oh, it's temporary, therefore it's okay. And here's the ironic part about it. Here's the contradictory part, is that Democrats say it was wrong what they did in Texas. It was wrong what they did in North Carolina. That's wrong. And how do you right the wrong? With another wrong is how they are logically making the argument. So they're saying, hey, we don't like Texas, what happened there, North Carolina, these other places, but we don't like it, but we're going to do it here. We're going to do it here because we somehow think that now makes it right, or that lets us correct a wrong, which is, completely irrational and contradictory, and just, I can't get myself there logically as to how they feel that that's an argument that people will accept.
I don't think they're going to get there in 26. I don't see where you're going to get 4 votes on the Virginia Supreme Court overturning Hurley. Chris, I just don't see it. Especially the big one is the intervening election. Me and people already voted. I mean, I think you're going to get now. The one concern is the left wing, the complete left wing that's taken over the General Assembly in Virginia. They're the ones that renominate these guys, so that's the one concern.
Well, it's an absolute melee for these new congressional districts and getting the endorsements, all the people who are running to become the nominees of the party when these districts they think they're going to be redrawn or instituted or foisted upon the Virginia people. It's so outlandish. And for your viewers, can you imagine an urban, highly urbanized district extending 2.5 hours by drive to the most rural locations in Virginia and
crazy.
Representing them fairly and honestly? It's complete disenfranchisement. You can't change the rules in the middle of the game. And that's what people, I think, Virginia are going to hopefully wake up and realize what's going on here and just say, look, we shouldn't do this. We settled this 6 years ago. We did it overwhelmingly with a supermajority vote.
66%.
If it goes through, John, I don't mean to. I don't do hyperbole on your show, and it gets under your skin sometimes that I'm, objective, and I say, well, I offer the other side. You can pretty much rename Virginia North Virginia, because we're going to have all the congressional representation out of one county, Fairfax and Arlington, and basically disenfranchise rural Virginia.
Also, disenfranchise the Eastern Shore, Hampton Roads. I mean, it's all gone. It's just like,
what's the point?
People
are going to give up voting because their vote won't matter.
Yeah. Well, that's what their goal is. Now, the reality is,
this should be changed nationwide.
I don't think it's gonna go through in 26, but it'll go through in 28. But it's gonna go through in 28 because then the arguments go away because we'll have to see what happens.
In the weeds
anyway, Rob. So assuming you're not dealing with this and we don't lose these seats, give us your assessment right now. President Trump, the economy. How do you guys hold the House? Do you have a fighting chance to hold the House, Rob?
Absolutely, we do, John. If you look at where the economy is going, it's recovering. What the president's doing, what the Congress is doing, the Republican majority in Congress in opening up the economic window in the United States, energy production, mineral production. Getting ourselves back to the foundations of what's made this nation great, and that is an economy where we actually make things again. I think we're on track to do that. If you look at the changes to the tax code, look at the things that are going to be happening as people file their taxes and they get their refunds. It's going to be pretty impactful for families. They're going to look at this and go, wow, we're going to have a lot more money in our pocket to do the things that they need to do as a family. So I think that those things are going to be very impactful. I know, too, that we're focusing on, again, getting the economy on track, continuing to grow this economy, and to bring down the cost for families. And there are a lot of different things that we can do. We've done some good things on healthcare. We have some more things lined up to do on healthcare. We have some more things lined up to do on the economy. So I think we'll have, quite a bit to go to the voters on and said, hey, listen, these are the things we said we were going to do, and these are the things that we've done. And here is, and listen, I think you have to be careful in not trying to tell people, oh, listen, everything is great. People have to sense it. We saw that with the Biden administration and telling them, oh, don't worry, the economy is really good, but it wasn't. What we need to do is, keep our nose to the grindstone, continue to work to grow and build this economy. And the American people are pretty good sensors about what's going on out there. So we just need to keep doing those things and then pointing to the things that we've done. So when they are enjoying, more money in their pockets, tax refunds, when they see the price of gas going down, when they see the cost of groceries going down, when they see those things, we need to remind them the policies that we put in place that are allowing those things to happen.
Rob, final thing, and then I know you got to bounce. ICE removing these 20 million illegals that Biden let in. What are your constituents telling you about it?
Well, listen, I think our constituents are 100% in favor of saying, hey, listen, if we have people that are here that have committed crimes or a criminal element that are here illegally, that they absolutely need to be deported. I think that's clear. To me, it's a no-brainer. That's what the administration, needs to continue to focus on, making sure that we're going after those individuals and getting them out of the country, period.
What about the other 20 million?
Well, listen, here's the bottom line. You're going to have to find some other interim way to be able to deal with that. And the reason I say that is because, those individuals are part of the economy. They're out there working every day. I mean, you go across the spectrum. You go in Virginia, you speak to folks in the construction industry. You speak to folks in the seafood industry. You speak to folks across the spectrum. And by almost any measure, those businesses will have some connection to folks that are here that are working. So I think you have to find a way to deal with them. I think you have to say, okay, how do we make sure that we look at them on a case-by-case basis and say, hey, listen, if you're here as a contributor in society, you're paying your taxes, you're doing everything that a good, responsible citizen would do, that we ought to make sure that there's a way for us to continue to have you here, because I can tell you this economy would flip upside down if you took those folks and immediately moved them out of the country. I think it's just.
Are you in favor of amnesty?
No, absolutely not. No. I think there's other ways that you can do that. I don't think that you have amnesty. That just says that you're going to allow people to not be held accountable for breaking the law. That's absolutely what should not happen. But I think there is a way for you to say, hey, the folks that are here, that are working hard, that are responsible members in their community, yes, they may be here illegally. And a lot of times, too, these folks came here legally, but they let their visas expire, so they technically didn't do things. And listen, our immigration system is broken. When it takes, on average now, a person 10 years to be able to get citizenship, that's not a speedy process that actually allows folks to do it properly. And listen, we have other legal processes here. The H-1 and H-2 programs are legal processes. We have a lot of companies in Virginia that rely on H-2 workers, and the challenge is we make those systems very, very difficult. So let's actually fix the legal pathways for folks to be here legally. And then, two, look at the individuals that are here, not by amnesty. You need to hold them accountable in some way. Lots of ideas out there, and I think that there are ways that you can do that and not grant them citizenship, but say, hey, listen, we want to make sure that you have legal status in the country so that you don't have to look over your shoulder all the time. And if you're here, working hard and a contributor to society, and in many instances, we need those individuals for this economy. The challenge is how do we find a place to make that happen? And I think most folks out there say, hey, we need to do that. We need to send out of the country the people that are here, that are criminals, that have broken the law. And I know folks said, well, listen, they broke the law by coming here illegally. Well, yes, they did. But we're talking about criminal offenses where they have done something in addition to being here illegally, and that includes folks that have continued to return to the country. So they've been deported, they return. They've been deported, return. So those instances too, I think, are ones that need to be on the list of individuals. You say, well, you continue to violate the law, and therefore we're going to deport you and make sure that you stay deported.
Congressman Wittman, we're out of time with you. You've been very gracious with us. Thank you. I don't want to get your chief of staff mad at me again for keeping you from a meeting, because right now I got a great relationship with her. We're friends again, so I don't want to screw anything up.
Yes.
I know. Now she loves me, so it's all good. I know that I'm hard not to love. I understand that. Let me get to your campaign. People want to follow it. Where do they go?
Sure. Well, our official site is Wittman. That's WITTMAN .house.gov, and then on the political side, it's robwittman.com. ROBWITTMAN.com.
Rob, tell your adorable wife Catherine I said hi, and tell her I said hi, and we will talk soon. We still got. We're going to go to a quick break. When we get back, we're going to get reaction from House of Delegates member Steve Holt, Iowa. House of Delegates member candidate for governor Eddie Andrews. Coming up, Chris Saxman always has something to say. Dr. Wittman, thanks for being with us. You're on the John Fredericks Media Network, Day 4, Iowa Bus Tour. Stay with us.